What if I told you that people can sometimes be influenced without even realizing it? Sounds creepy, right? But here's what's even stranger. Some of the world's best negotiators, marketers, leaders, and communicators understand psychological principles that shape how people make decisions every single day. Today, we're breaking down 5 of the most fascinating psychological techniques ever discussed. Not so you can manipulate people, but so you can recognize them, protect yourself, and become a better communicator. And trust me, the final technique is surprisingly powerful because it's based on something almost everyone misunderstands. Let's get into it. Have you ever noticed how some questions seem to make saying yes feel almost automatic? Here's why. Most people value having control over their own decisions. So instead of telling someone exactly what to do, skilled communicators sometimes present 2 acceptable options. Imagine asking a friend, "Do you want to grab pizza or tacos tonight?" Notice something? The conversation quietly assumes you're already going out. Your friend still gets to choose, just not whether the plan happens. Businesses use this all the time. Streaming services, restaurants, sales teams, even everyday conversations. The goal isn't mind control. It's reducing decision fatigue by simplifying choices. Once you recognize it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. But influencing small decisions is one thing. What if you wanted someone to gradually become more willing to agree with larger requests? That's where the next principle comes in. Here's something interesting about human behavior. People often like being consistent with their previous actions. Imagine asking your manager for a huge promotion on day 1. Chances are, the answer is no. Now imagine a different path. You volunteer for an important project. You accept extra responsibility. You complete difficult assignments. You continue proving your value. Then, when promotion discussions happen, your request feels much more reasonable. Notice the difference. Instead of forcing a big leap, you created a logical progression. That's why experienced negotiators often start with smaller commitments before discussing bigger opportunities. But what happens when logic isn't the strongest force in someone's decision? Because emotions often speak much louder than facts. And that's where things become much more complicated. Let's be honest, humans aren't perfectly logical. We're emotional. Sometimes incredibly emotional. Imagine a friend reminds you about all the times they helped you. Suddenly, you feel an internal pressure to return the favor. That's known as the principle of reciprocity. When someone genuinely helps us, many of us naturally feel motivated to help them back. Healthy relationships never rely on guilt. Real generosity should never become emotional pressure. But understanding this psychological tendency helps you recognize when someone may be trying to influence your decisions. Now here's where psychology gets even stranger. What if your own memories weren't nearly as reliable as you believe? Because science has discovered something that surprises almost everyone. Think about this. How confident are you that every memory you have is perfectly accurate? Probably very confident. But memory doesn't work like a video recording. It constantly changes. Researchers have found that repeated information can sometimes influence how people remember past events. That's one reason misinformation spreads so easily. If a public figure confidently repeats the same claim again, and again, and again, some people eventually begin accepting it without carefully checking the evidence. This doesn't mean repeated statements magically become true. It simply shows how repetition can affect perception, which is exactly why critical thinking matters more than ever. Always verify important claims before believing or sharing them. So if words can influence people, what happens when there are no words at all? The answer might surprise you. Most people assume the strongest person in a conversation is the one talking the most. But that's often not true. Confident silence can completely change the atmosphere. Have you ever answered a question, then the other person simply looked at you without saying anything? Those few quiet seconds can feel surprisingly uncomfortable. People naturally want to fill silence. Sometimes they reveal more information. Sometimes they clarify what they meant. Sometimes they even talk themselves into changing their own position. Professional interviewers, negotiators, and experienced communicators often understand the value of patient silence. Not because silence controls people, but because it encourages others to keep talking. Sometimes listening is more powerful than speaking. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room learns the most. Now that you've seen these 5 psychological principles, you'll probably start noticing them in advertisements, negotiations, sales conversations, and even everyday life. The real advantage isn't using these ideas to manipulate people. It's recognizing when they're being used on you, because awareness is one of the strongest forms of protection. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more psychology, communication, and human behavior videos, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.